after the most recent UFC, where I went and covered Usman versus Edwards #3. So many people in the comments said, Gabriel, can you cover Justin Gaethje's fight? Apparently it was a barn burner, which it often is with him. Instead of watching that fight, which I just haven't had time to do lately, I instead chose today to focus on what makes this guy's low kicks so interesting / dangerous, because he does things a little differently. So let's focus on Justin Gaethje's low kick, specifically the calf kick. Sometimes it is worth looking in depth at a fighter's specific way of throwing a technique because they execute in a way that is just so damaging or so beneficial or just next level. Now with Justin Gaethje, I kind of look and I go, this technique, it's not next level for him, but he delivers in such a damaging way that yes, we should look at how he accomplishes this and how he's not getting punished all the time for throwing a calf kick and damaging his own foot. You know, what are all the details that are making this so successful for him? Now we are going to go into the right leg and look what he does when he fights an orthodox fighter. Orthodox versus orthodox, he constantly attacks the calf. But I want it to be said and recognize that if somebody's in a southpaw stance, he no longer decides to go low with the calf kick. Why does he not do that? Well, he recognizes the danger. The outside of the leg is great for calf kicking. There's that bundle of muscle there, and it's just so hard to protect it. On the inside, not such a good way to execute a calf kick, especially because the transition to get the shin in place is so small. You only have to go like tweep, and all of a sudden if he blasts in and he catches a knee or a shin, his foot or shin is gonna get busted up. So when he's fighting a southpaw, he recognizes that going low with that right leg is super dangerous. So instead he comes with his left leg and he comes up to the thigh, the way that we normally see people execute low kicks, above the knee and stylistically much more similar. But I do want to focus on the calf kick. So let's take a look at 3 or 4 things that he does which make him unique in the way he executes this low kick technique. He leans his head forward and off to an angle. If I was going to execute a low kick, I would either come slightly to the side or I might even lean back a little bit. But I'm certainly not going to drop my head forward. My head forward brings me more into that punch zone where if the guy's getting calf kicked, he might be able to hit you at the same time. But Gaethje, he doesn't go straight forward, he goes forward and on an angle, which kind of puts him in this odd zone where people, as they're getting kicked, have to kind of move over to this position with their hand. They're kind of punching over here, or they have to throw a hook over here. Very awkward spot to attack, especially when your leg's being smashed and that calf is feeling compromised. But on the off chance that they do actually get their hand over there after they take that calf kick, he makes sure that he slips out. He slips out very often after a low kick. This is such a foreign, odd thing to see. I don't think I've ever watched anybody and gone, oh yeah, they come here to here, here to here. It's so weird, but he makes it work. And his head way off to the side and dropping just seems to be very difficult to find. In addition, if he maintains a little bit more distance, what he does is he hits and then he pulls back. The same way that people very often, like Floyd Mayweather, when he throws his cross, he twitches out. He hits, he twitches. And he just does that automatically all the time. And then when people throw, he's no longer there. Well, if Gaethje sees that distance, he'll just pull himself out, footwork, and the head move back. And now he doesn't have to worry about the counters. But if that distance isn't there, we see that roll. And something very interesting about the calf kick, which a lot of people might not recognize yet because it's a relatively new technique, you need to be closer to your opponent generally to execute. For my low kick, I can get right to here. I can stay nice and high. As I start to drop down, I have to lean in closer and closer. It's harder to go low. So him dropping his weight helps to counterbalance that extra drop, but he recognizes I'm in punch range and I'm gonna get out right after. Crazy unique way to deal with having that head forward more and having potential punches whiz at your head for where you put it. The next thing that he does very often in setting up his low kick is he does a springing jump forward. So instead of setting up with punches and going to his kick, he'll be out of range and he'll push off his back leg, he'll plant on his lead foot, push, plant, low kick. And that is very often how he's closing the distance and making sure that he's able to get very explosive. The thing about MMA is as soon as there's a push forward like that, people are going to be concerned about so much more than just a striking sport. There's the takedown threat as well. So having that little jump pop, they might think he's coming down low, and it might just be that much more difficult to read what is happening. But either way, that is more often than not, unless punches are being thrown at his head and he just decides to drop and throw a low kick. But upon him entering, he'll lift that lead leg and jump and land that low kick. The next detail, which is very, very interesting, is his standing leg, which we just talked about taking the spring in. It doesn't pivot very much. Now, more often than not, we pivot so that we can create more power, but also so that that power increases with the rotation of our body. When I pivot, I can whip through. When I don't pivot, I can only kind of go to there. But this guy kicks really hard. I guess on a calf kick, especially when you're going down to that little bundle of muscle down there with the bones so close, you don't need to kick as hard. And aiming just 3 or 4 inches through is plenty. So he will keep this leg very stationary, whether the punches are being thrown at him and he just goes like so and counters, or whether he springs in, his standing leg is not pivoting. This is something that I would not teach somebody to do if they were a beginner. I would teach always pivot, always pivot. But then as you get more advanced and you start recognizing what works best for your style, we do see some high-level fighters under pivoting. An under pivot, in my opinion, would be anything less than a 90-degree angle. Anything other than that is an under pivot, in my opinion, for a round kick at any level, but many people are doing that and it is working for them. So recognize as you get a higher skill level, maybe you want to decrease that pivot just a little bit with certain kicks only. And in terms of his technique on everything else, it's fairly traditional. He keeps his left hand high to protect his head from any kicks that might come. He swings down to help increase power, and he's just making sure to land very often with either the upper foot or the lower shin. That is his target zone. You have to remember that when you attack the calf, eventually you're going to run into somebody who just does that. And that's a great way to block a calf kick. You just take it with the bone instead of the meaty portion of your leg, and people blast in and they're gonna get messed up. We've seen it many times before. Throwing a kick on a planted leg with the toes facing out can mess you up, but Gaethje is making sure he's not landing right here, and he's probably an extremely tough, as we know, durable man, where if he does smash that lower shin into your leg, he's not gonna break it, and he's not gonna stumble away going, oh, that hurt, I'm gonna stop. So anyway, Justin Gaethje's calf kick. Off the right leg, he goes super low, below the knee. Off the left leg, he comes above the knee, keeps everything traditional against the southpaws. If he goes inside low to a southpaw, again, he'll go above the knee. There's a time and a place to calf kick. You need to recognize when it works. And Justin Gaethje breaks a lot of the rules in how you should technically throw a low kick or a calf kick, but it works for him. And taking some of these pointers and trying to apply them to your own game, it might work for you. It might not, but still, this is an interesting thing to talk about. If everybody enjoyed this episode, this breakdown of Gaethje's calf kick, please give the video a like. As always, train hard, guys. I will see you back here soon for another episode.